This video is sponsored by Surfshark. As of late, rumors have been circulating that Rey Palpatine, the character famously portrayed by Daisy Ridley in the sequel trilogy, is about to return to Star Wars for a new series of post-sequel theatrical movies. Could this be true? We shall see, for in this editorial, I will begin by going through what is out there in the trades, as well as what informed insiders with a solid track record are saying. Then I'll break down how Reys Return ties in with Bob Iger's return to Disney, and what if anything Nelson Peltz, the activist investor who has given Iger a very hard time as of late, can do about it. And clearly, if you care about Disney, something must be done, because creatively, all is not well in the House of Mouse. In the recent earnings call, Iger even had to admit that Disney Plus is now losing subscribers. And with that recent viral clip from the children's series The Proud Family demonstrating just how far removed Disney's values are from those of pretty much everyone else, this should come as no surprise. Looking at what Disney is putting out, it is no wonder people throw their hands in the air, cancel Disney Plus, and take to the high seas for their latest Marvel fix, which at this point is watched out of obligation only. But to be clear, neither Midnight's Edge nor our sponsors condone piracy, even if Phase 4 sucked to high heavens. You see, not only is piracy wrong, you would be exposing yourself to endless spyware, tracking software, and other malware out there on the high seas. And that's on top of all the data that is stolen from you during all of your regular browsing and sold to third parties. Have you noticed all the spam and scam mails you're getting? Well, they got your email from those third parties, that's how that happens. There's a fix for all of that though. To protect yourself, you need to protect your data, and a good way of doing that is through a VPN, such as the one delivered by this channel's sponsor, Surfshark. A VPN, or Virtual Private Network, is a privacy protection tool which guarantees instant online safety and encrypts all data sent via the internet, thereby protecting your data and you. But there's more. Surfshark allows you to bypass geo-blocking restrictions by changing the country you access the internet from, which gives some great advantages when it comes to streaming. For instance, you can access 15 different Netflix libraries, all with a different selection of movies and TV series simply by changing your virtual location, which is easy because Surfshark has servers in more than 100 countries around the world. Outside of the US, Star, the international version of Hulu, comes bundled with Disney+. If you are in the US and change your location to, say, the UK, well then you just might get that too. That's pretty good, but it gets even better. If you type in the code MIDNIGHT when ordering, that triggers an exclusive offer of 83% off the normal list price, plus 3 extra months for free. Furthermore, Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in trying it out. Do check out the link in the description below for further details and to order. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and with that, let's dive into Rey's rumored return. In December of last year, just a few weeks after Bob Iger wrestled back control over Disney, then all of a sudden, murmurs about Daisy Ridley returning to Rey suddenly started appearing after she reportedly had a meeting with Lucasfilm. From there, Ridley triggered more speculative articles based on very carefully worded statements, which no doubt were fed to her by Disney's PR department. These in turn triggered even more articles, some of which were planted, others merely chased the latest story. The sum of all of this though is that Rey returning to Star Wars, presumably in the post-sequel trilogy era, is not just on the table but actively in the works, even if it is not yet formally announced. Luckily, WDW Pro, an insider with a proven track record, could provide some more details. Before we move on, we have to give the standard health warning. While WDW Pro has an excellent track record, and his most recent scoop to come true pertaining to King of the Hill was even broken on Midnight's Edge, none of the information we are about to relay can at this point be independently verified, and since it's still early days, it's even subject to change, and so it must be considered rumor and treated as such. With that health warning out of the way, what WDW Pro revealed, and his partner in crime Valiant Renegade reiterated to us in a livestream also featuring the Critical Drinker, was that Disney now considers Star Wars to be a damaged brand. They know they blew it, and that the sequel trilogy essentially destroyed the franchise. Its continued existence precludes any kind of return to form for Star Wars. But when he returned, Bob Iger launched a new initiative aimed at reframing the sequel trilogy and rebuilding the franchise beyond it. They have reportedly chosen 5 key characters to serve as the centerpieces of that rebuilding, who just also happen to feature in Galaxy's Edge and that stupid overpriced Galactic Star Cruiser hotel experience. And they are Chewbacca, R2-D2, a new character to be determined, and most notably Grogu of Mandalorian merchandise success,
It was a cheap move.
and of course, Rey. Allegedly, Team Iger think they can make fans excited about Star Wars again this way, so all the money they invested in the sequel trilogy, not just in the movies, but in the parks and everything, won't have been a complete waste. Allow me to break down why they're wrong. Within the realm of investment and banking, the term sunk cost refers to costs that have already been incurred and cannot be recovered. Put another way, it refers to money you already blew, so that money is gone and there's no getting it back. The only viable option available to you is to accept the loss, write it off, and move on in a different direction. The sunk cost fallacy, then, is failure to accept that defeat and invest even more in a vain attempt at recouping what is already lost. In layman's terms, it's throwing good money after bad, and in business, it's how bad decisions are made. In my own experience, it is more likely to happen when a key decision maker behind a strategy or direction that failed is so attached to it that they cannot bear to change direction. The pain and humiliation of admitting they were wrong the whole time would simply be too great. I submit this is the case with Bob Iger. He and the rest of Disney's management has the data which proves the sequel trilogy destroyed Star Wars, and the only sensible thing to do is to scrap it, wipe it out of canon completely, and start over from The Mandalorian. That would be the sensible business decision, but that would also be tantamount to Bob Iger admitting that with the exception of hiding Jon Favreau, literally everything else done on Star Wars during his watch this past decade was wrong and ended up costing shareholders a fortune. That would leave a stain on Bob Iger's personal legacy. Now, some might interject, why can't he just throw Kathleen Kennedy under the bus and save face that way? And in another universe, maybe he would have. But in this universe, Iger wrote and published a book in which he detailed that it was he personally who decided not to use George Lucas' outline for the sequel trilogy, and to which degree he personally oversaw and micromanaged Episode 7, and therefore the foundations of the sequel trilogy. That's not absolving Kathleen Kennedy for any of her wrongdoings, of course, but Bob Iger helped set the stage for and signed off on each and every decision that led to the destruction of Star Wars. Bringing back Rey and continuing from the sequel trilogy in an attempt at rescuing the money already sunk into it simply won't work, as it's continuing down a path already rejected by the audience. This is one of the clearest examples of the sunk cost fallacy I've seen, and it's in progress right now. Are there no cooler heads that can stop this? Where is Nelson Peltz? In the last couple of Disney-themed videos, we spoke about activist investor Nelson Peltz and his Restore the Magic campaign, aimed at securing himself a position on Disney's board, from which he could challenge Bob Iger's strategy and force his preferred policies upon the company. There have been developments since then, and if you read the industry trades or the corporately owned mainstream news, one can get the impression that, like CNN tries to spin here, Bob Iger won. Activist shareholder stands down in Disney board battle. This is where you should be asking, how did Bob Iger win? What did he do to outmaneuver Nelson Peltz? Because since Iger reportedly won, that means Peltz must have lost, and he must have lost because he was outmaneuvered by Iger, right? Well, let's see what CNN, the most trusted name in news, has to say about that. In Bob we trust, Wall Street said Thursday, after reporting a multi-billion cost-cutting initiative that sent Disney shares surging, CEO Bob Iger gained a key battle against activist shareholder Nelson Peltz. Peltz, who demanded changes at Disney and a seat on the company's board. Let's hold it right there. Referring back to our earlier coverage on Peltz, what he first and foremost demanded was changes at Disney. The only reason he demanded a seat on the board was in order to be in a better position to ensure those changes were actually made. He never demanded a seat on the board just for the prestige of it. It was always about the changes. With that emphasized, let's move on with CNN's write-up, and they claim that Peltz declared defeat. Oh, so he declared defeat, did he now? White flag and unconditional surrender and all of that. We'll look into that declaration of defeat shortly here, but returning to CNN's write-up, this alleged declaration of defeat came after Iger announced many of the cost-cutting initiatives Peltz had been demanding. So, that then is how Iger outmaneuvered Peltz, by cunningly caving and giving Peltz pretty much all the policy changes he demanded. At the conclusion of Iger's half-hour interview with CNBC on Thursday, Peltz said he was dropping his bid. That would be because at that point, Iger had already given him so much of what he wanted that he no longer needed a place on the board. Let's read from the Trian Group's statement, which CNN referred to as Declaration of Defeat. We congratulate Disney and Bob Iger on their recently announced operating initiatives, which are a win for all shareholders and broadly align with our thinking. We are pleased with the role that Trian was able to play in helping to focus the board to take decisive actions which we believe will lead to better financial results. We were also pleased to see the company's pledge to restore the dividend. Accordingly, we are withdrawing our nomination of Nelson Peltz as a director to allow the board and Disney's leadership team to focus on creating long-term shareholder value without the distraction of a proxy contest. Now it's about execution and ensuring best-in-class corporate governance going forward. We will be watching, I repeat, we will be watching and rooting for the company's success. In my book, that's not so much a declaration of defeat as it is a threat to Iger not to step out of line, because the proxy battle will be back on the moment he does. So yeah, nice reporting there, CNN. For now though, the Trian Group has momentarily backed off, as Iger instituted the corporate policies they wanted. But that also means that for the moment Iger can creatively do what he wants, so brace yourself for Rey returning, I guess. Kathleen Kennedy certainly won't mind, because what is Rey if not an idealized Kathleen Kennedy self-insert? But what about you, the audience? How excited are you to see Rey Palpatine return and the story continue beyond Episode 9? Let me know in the comments, and before you go, remember that to help protect your data and bypass quarrelsome geo-blocking restrictions, you should get Surfshark VPN. Use our code MIDNIGHT to get 83% off, plus 3 extra months for free. Link is in the description.